On 5 News, Britain's Olympic heroes are home. Team GB's record-breaking athletes arrive back in style to a huge welcome. And the patriotic celebration party started on the journey back. Selfies and champagne galore.
Can't wait to just actually see my family. I can see them now, so I'm happy.
Also today, how becoming a mum widens the gender pay gap. New research shows women see their career prospects plummet even further when they start a family.
Other people did get more opportunities, especially younger people.
I would sacrifice promotion for my family.
The 8-year-old boy from Birmingham killed in a grenade attack in Sweden.
Today this train is completely ram-packed.
A week after Jeremy Corbyn said overcrowding forced him to sit on a train floor, Virgin Trains released pictures apparently showing him walking past empty seats. And we meet Britain's Paralympians hoping to emulate Team GB's Olympic success. Welcome to 5 News, I'm Danny Sinha. There are most successful Olympians in more than a century, and Team GB's medalists were treated to a hero's welcome as their personalised gold-nosed plane landed in London. With more than 60 medals to declare and nearly 80 bottles of champagne to fuel the celebrations, the mood on board was understandably jubilant. Selfies, cockpit visits and renditions of the national anthem were the order of the day, as Simon Vigar reports.
Team GB's latest golden generation flew back on a plane with a golden nose. Flight number BA 2016. The team photo was something else, just some of the 67 medals on display. Team GB is the first in Olympic history to improve on a home medal haul at the next Games. The reception of Team GB back in GB was euphoric. Gymnastics hero Max Whitlock was focusing on the important stuff.
Can't wait to just actually see my family. I can see them now, so I'm happy.
But back on the plane, he'd still been focusing on his routine. A bit of pommel on the posh seats of first class had followed selfies and an impromptu blast of what has become their theme tune, the national anthem. There was champers for the Golden Girls of the hockey team, but there was sleep for some. Tell me that was a good party on that plane.
That was absolutely amazing. I'm not going to lie, for most of it I did sleep, but I was definitely awake for the national anthem. That was very, very exciting.
You were asleep?
Yeah, I've been tired, you know, winning medals isn't easy.
It was a good plane, yeah. I mean, BA smashed it. It was...
Yeah, but did you lot?
I couldn't possibly say.
Well, no.
We had a great time.
Amid the celebrations and all the emotions, also a sense of achievement.
This is like doing an interview in a canyon, but last question to you. What sort of pressure did you feel, or did you feel any pressure at all? Because Team GB 4 years ago was so successful, no one thought it could be done again.
No, no one did, and we've far exceeded our own expectations. We had pressure as well, being in the 4. We didn't want to be the first bloke not to win since 2000.
And of course, there are the homecoming parades. Stone in Staffordshire will carry Joe Clark around in his kayak.
They've already started thinking about how we're going to get the kayak up in the air and above their shoulders without breaking it, so that's quite novelty, I think, so that'd be fun.
Well, Liam's jealous now, you want that, don't you?
Yeah, that'd be quite cool. A bit more of a balance issue, I think, for me.
It's work-life balance for double gold medalist Helen Glover. She's getting married soon, but not to the pilot.
Have you thought at all about who's going to be the maid of honour?
Well, I guess I have to ask that one, don't I? It'd be a bit awkward if I did.
bit.
So yeah, Heather's my maid of honour. She's done nothing so far because she's been rowing as well. But no, she organised a hen do for me in Rio.
Hen do. That's literally the only thing I've done.
A Rio hen do is quite cool. So yeah, it was great.
Now comes the time for our golden generation to enjoy it, before that biggest decision of all. Do you want to do it all again for Tokyo 2020? Simon Vigar, 5 News, Heathrow.
Team GB's medal heroes returning home there. And just to say, later on in the programme, we'll be with the British Paralympians hoping to do the same. So do stay with us for that. It's an issue that continues to plague the workplace, and new research shows that women's pay is still lagging behind that of their male colleagues, and it gets worse when they have a family. The Institute for Fiscal Studies found that whilst the overall wage gap has narrowed over the past 20 years, it's mothers who are missing out on pay rises and promotions. Julian Drucker has been finding out more.
Overall, the pay gap between men and women is slowly narrowing. But new analysis of the British workplace shows a crucial sector of the workforce is being left behind: working mums.
Take a 5.
City lawyer Rena Goldenberg Lynch says she saw the problem for herself. Returning to work when she'd had her 2 children, male colleagues were promoted ahead of her, she claims. She quit and now runs a consultancy business.
I do think that there's a general sense that when women have children, they are less committed because they will have conflicting priorities, their family and their work, and therefore there is an automatic assumption that they're no longer as ambitious or committed to the business.
On average, hourly pay rates for women are currently around 18% lower than for men. But this study has found that gap widens once women start a family, so that by the time their first child is 12, their hourly pay is 33% lower than their male counterparts. The research puts the difference down to mothers working fewer hours and therefore missing out on experience and promotions.
That widening of the gender pay gap after childbirth has a lot to do with women reducing their hours of paid work. And what happens then is they don't just reduce their total earnings because they're working less, but the amount they're paid per hour tends to stop growing.
Many have first-hand experience of being overlooked when they return from maternity leave.
Kind of got ignored a bit as well.
You definitely felt that?
Yeah, whereas other people did get more opportunities, especially younger people.
But others said they didn't feel penalised when they went back to their jobs.
I didn't find it hard to get promoted because I pushed myself to be promoted. I made sure I was indispensable.
I think for a period of time I would sacrifice promotion for my family and then come back at a later point.
The hard-fought wage battles of the late 60s led to a change in the law in the 70s. In the 2010s, there are many who believe the workplace remains an unequal place. Julian Drucker, 5 News.
The chairman of the education watchdog Ofsted has announced his resignation after calling the Isle of Wight a ghetto. David Horse sparked a huge row earlier this month after saying the island was full of inbreeding, which was causing its schools to fail their pupils. The island's MP described his comments as inaccurate, insulting and extremely unhelpful. Concerns over a shortage of doctors and other health staff may scupper plans for a 7-day NHS, according to leaked documents. Labour's Shadow Health Secretary Diane Abbott has described the situation as a scandal. The Department of Health insists the risk assessment was just a series of worst-case scenarios. Today marks 6 months since the collapse of the boiler house at Didcot Power Station. And as families of the 3 victims held a memorial service this afternoon, there was anger at the ongoing wait to recover their bodies. The search for the missing men resumed last month, but local politicians say the delay is unacceptable and families should be allowed to mourn. An 8-year-old boy from Birmingham has been killed in a grenade attack whilst on holiday in Sweden. Yusuf Warsami was visiting relatives in Gothenburg with his family when a grenade was thrown into the room where he was sleeping. Warren Nettleford reports.
Like many 8-year-olds, Yusuf loved school and enjoyed playing with his friends. This smashed window only begins to tell the story of the horror that took place in this Swedish apartment. Yusuf's family were visiting relatives in Gothenburg for a summer holiday. Whilst he slept with his mother and brother, a live grenade was thrown inside. Yusuf was fatally wounded, whilst other members of the family escaped with minor injuries. Yusuf's father is at home in Birmingham, struggling to understand why his son is dead.
Your heart is broken, but as what we believe, Allah has given us and He take it. That's what I believe.
But why did this happen? Police say the attack may be linked to an underworld feud. A man convicted over a fatal shooting in the area last year was registered at the address. police have been shocked by the killing. This spokesman said, "It's despicable. One wonders how people can willfully throw a grenade into an apartment without knowing who's in it." Abdi Wahid Wasame is awaiting a passport to travel to Sweden. His family are in mourning, desperate for answers. Warren Nettleford, 5 News.
Jeremy Corbyn is being accused of staging a political stunt after he was filmed last week complaining of train overcrowding while sitting on the floor of an apparently packed train. Well, this afternoon, Virgin Trains released new footage video purporting to show the Labour leader walking past empty, unreserved seats. Layla Hayes is in Westminster for us now. And Layla, just remind us, how did this all start?
Well, it all started when Jeremy Corbyn's team released footage of the Labour leader sitting on the floor of a Virgin train from London to Newcastle. Now, he claimed that he was on the floor because there weren't enough seats. This is what he had to say at the time.
Today this train is completely ram-packed. The staff on the train are absolutely brilliant, working really hard to help everybody. The reality is there's not enough trains, we need more of them, and they're also incredibly expensive.
Well, he went on to suggest that his experience of not being able to find a seat perhaps strengthened the case for renationalising the railways. But today, Virgin Trains fought back. They've now released CCTV, which shows Mr Corbyn walking past empty seats just before he and his team started filming. It also shows him being helped to a seat after they finished filming, where they say he sat down for the remaining 2 hours of the journey.
So has there been any comment from Jeremy Corbyn himself today?
Well, in the last few minutes, there's been a statement from Jeremy Corbyn. In it, it says that the seat he was in was only given to him and only became available after he and his team made the film. So they are sticking to their story, and there's also a suggestion that they're going to release more pictures to prove that their claims are true. Meanwhile, Jeremy Corbyn's Labour leadership rival Owen Smith has tweeted today. He said that his campaign remains on track and that he's proud to be genuinely standing up for ordinary people.
Layla, thank you very much. Still to come on the programme. Quite an act to follow. We're with Britain's Paralympians hoping to emulate Team GB's medal haul, and
at the third stroke, it will be 8, 32 and 20 seconds.
Do you fancy being the voice of the next speaking clock? All that and much more after the break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News. Now, it's a treatment thousands of women in the UK rely on to combat the effects of the menopause. But a major new study has found that combined hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, could make them 3 times more likely to develop breast cancer. Frankie McCamley reports.
75-year-old Pat Sutherland took combined HRT for 9 years to treat symptoms of the menopause.
I was assured at the time that it was something of a wonder drug and that it could do everything from curing menopausal symptoms to keeping our hearts and our skin and our brains young and healthy. It was considered something of a panacea 30 years ago.
She was later diagnosed with breast cancer, but doesn't know if the two were linked.
The combined hormone replacement therapy contains both estrogen and progesterone. It can be taken in a number of forms, including tablets, skin patches, a cream or a gel.
But a new study looking into the risks surrounding this specific combined HRT treatment has found they could have been underestimated by up to 60%. Those who took the drug were nearly 3 times more likely to develop breast cancer, with the risk increasing the longer it's used.
The research study today is the most comprehensive and most accurate study to date. So what we're doing is really providing, state-of-the-art information so that women can have the best possible advice about whether or not to take HRT, taking into account the potential increased risk in breast cancer.
But despite these latest findings, some experts say the choice on whether to take the therapy is still a very personal one.
If you are taking HRT, I suggest you go and speak to your GP rather than stopping it straight away. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide whether you want to take it, but your GP will be able to put those risks into perspective.
As for Pat, she wishes she had known all of the risks at the time. Frankie McCamley, 5 News.
As Team GB's athletes return home, all eyes are now on our Paralympic hopefuls as they prepare for Rio. And with a record medal haul this month, the pressure's now on them to also deliver the silverware when the Paralympics start in September. Charlotte Grant has been at a training track in Wales to talk to some of the cyclists bound for Brazil.
What must be going through the minds of our Paralympians? They've watched Team GB's golden rush of medals. Now, in 2 weeks' time, it's their turn to compete. For cyclists training in Newport today, like John Allen Butterworth, an Army veteran who lost his arm in Iraq, it is added pressure.
They're all getting back now, and they're all kind of, doing things not sport-related and enjoying themselves, when I've still got a job to do. It's a little bit of pressure in terms of you want to beat their target, but I think I like that way. It's kind of, it gets you ready for it, gets you motivated.
But the shine has been taken off the Paralympics. Only 12% of tickets have been sold. Now major budget cuts are threatening to overshadow the Games.
It's very upsetting actually, but hopefully because they've kind of moved some of the sports from different venues to allow transport links to be more streamlined and more efficient and stuff. Hopefully that'll still, it won't affect the actual Games itself. So from the outside, we'll see the Paralympics and we won't even know that there's been budget cuts.
The athletes' focus now is on winning medals.
Dominating the velodrome, our cyclists helped Britain come second in the medals table at the Olympics, the best result for more than 100 years. Now our Paralympians are every bit as determined for success in Rio.
And to inspire too. Sophie Thornhill is a tandem cyclist, competing alongside her pilot, Helen Scott. The bond they have, she says, is what the Paralympics is all about.
It shows stories that people would never normally see. It puts people in the limelight that wouldn't normally be there.
Sophie, she's visually impaired and she lets me ride around that track, at God knows what speed. So it's amazing and she's a fantastic athlete and I hope that she will inspire other visually impaired people to jump on the back of a tandem and give it a go, because that's what we do it for,
It was our Olympic athletes that got the party started. Now our Paralympic team are convinced they can finish the job. Charlotte Grant, 5 News.
Let's hope so. Now, do you have an eye for accuracy and a good telephone manner? Well, you could become the next voice of the speaking clock, as a new competition's been launched to find the next national timekeeper. And for those of us who think the clock is obsolete, well, think again. As Minnie Stevenson's been finding out, it's a lucrative and much-loved service.
At the third stroke, it will be 8:56 and 50 seconds.
Now, like a loyal and trusted friend since 1936, the voice of the speaking clock has brought Britain the precise time.
At the third stroke, it will be 2 o'clock precisely.
And at the third stroke, the Dial the Time service has launched a competition to find a new voice to mark its 80th birthday. Sara Mendes da Costa's been the woman behind the speaking clock since 2007.
The time from BT will be 8:32 and 20 seconds.
But she's leaving, and so it's time, pun fully intended, to find Britain's next top human clock.
Really anybody can apply this time around, of any age. We've had a number of temporary voices over the years which had a mixture of accents, so literally anybody and any accent can apply to be the permanent voice this time around.
Lots of people will hear your dulcet tones. 12 million calls a year are still being made to the speaking clock. The busiest times are Remembrance Day, New Year's Eve, or when the clocks go forwards or back. These days it costs 45p per minute from a landline. So we've come to the home of time, Greenwich Mean Time, to the Royal Observatory to consult the experts on whether the talking clock's time could be up.
Many people, I think, today get the time from the internet, from their computers or from the radio, but millions of people do still use the speaking clock all the time. So there clearly is still a demand for it and a need for it. And in many ways, it is still one of the most accurate ways you can get the time.
We thought we'd see if Britain really does have talent and audition for the timeless role.
By the third stroke, it will be 8:56 and 30 seconds.
Precisely. Got it. By the third stroke, it will be 12:40. That's rubbish. New audition.
The winner will be announced in November, so get practicing your very best telephone voice. Here goes. At the third stroke, the time will be 5:21 and 54 seconds. Well, roughly. Minnie Stevenson, 5 News.
Fantastic stuff. Well, just to tell you, coming up on 5 News tonight in an hour's time, I'll be joined by a specialist in HRT for any women out there who are worried about that news that it can triple the risk of cancer. Plus, the funniest jokes of the Edinburgh Fringe have been announced.
I spotted a Marmite van on the motorway. It was heading eastbound.
Why is Henry's wife covered in tooth marks? Because he's Tudor.
Well, those made the shortlist, but this man came up with a winner. I'll be speaking to him at 6:30. That's all from us for now. Sean Welby's got the weather next, so from all of us, thanks very much for watching.